For those of you that said good morning, good morning. All right, I think we're okay to get started. Okay, so all of you have received the syllabus. So I'm just going to go over, pardon me, some information really quickly. And I didn't look at the one that they posted. Good morning. As far as information right now, oh, good. So she did put my name on there. Awesome. So the syllabus itself, does anybody have any questions so far on anything that you looked through on the syllabus? I think it's pretty straightforward, but I just want to make sure, I know you have to check it off that it's completed, so I want to make sure there isn't anything that you had a question about. Nope. All right. Okay. So obviously we're in the 8th edition of the pediatric book. That's the one that we'll be using. Of course, it's called Introduction to Maternity and Pediatric Nursing. We're going to be covering chapters 15 through 33 are the chapters that we cover for pediatrics. And we only have our class on Mondays, as you know. So they kind of have us going pretty strong because we cover all those chapters once a week. And I'm going to go over very quickly with you on the actual calendar schedule, okay? Under the evaluation, prior to getting to that schedule, shows that we have a couple of case studies. I will be learning more about these because since I'm stepping in for them to teach the class, Melissa's going to be talking to me later this week about a few of the things that project type case study things that you guys do in PEDS. So I'll know more about that then. You have your quizzes, which are the same thing as our exam. So if I call it an exam or a quiz, it's the same thing, okay? Some classes call it one, some call it the other. So just so you're not confused, okay? You'll have your NCLEX integration, final exam, and we do have a project that I know about this much about, but we'll kind of get started on that very, very briefly today, and then next week we'll have a little bit more information on that, okay? So I just want to give you the dates for our weeks. So I'm just looking at the schedule. If anybody printed it out, I'm just looking at the actual schedule where it shows the 12 weeks, okay? So I'm going to give you the dates just to make sure everybody's on the same page. If you want to write them down so you can go back. Starting today, of course, is September 28th. Week 2 is October 5th. Then our third Monday is a holiday. We will not have class that day. Okay, that's the Columbus Day holiday on October 12th. Yay!
But can I find the same thing on Moodle or?
For that, Lori,
I'm sorry. Hang on one section A. Just section A. I'm sorry, Janet. Was that you talking?
I was just wondering, can I find the same thing on Moodle, like the syllabus, instead of writing it down? Is it on there?
The syllabus is on there for you to print out, but I'm just giving you the dates because the dates are not on the syllabus.
Okay, got it. Can you start over, please?
So today is September 28th. And then next Monday is October 5th. Then we have our third Monday is a holiday. That's Columbus Day. We will not have class that day. And then I'm sorry, Shanae, what was your question?
Since we're going to have a holiday on that Monday, do we have to come in on a Saturday?
I have not been told yet. I know that usually if there's a holiday, you guys have makeup hours or a makeup assignment. I'll find out more once I talk to Melissa. I know we used to not have to do that, but because of ABHES, they started saying that you guys had to make up those hours. So what I tried to do last time so that you didn't have to come in on a full day was just to give you an assignment that related. And so I'll talk to them and find out how they want to handle that for this one, okay? And I'll let you know as soon as I know.
Okay.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Week 4 is October 19th. Week 5 is October 26th. Week 6 is November 2nd. Thank you, Danny. Week 7 is November 9th. Did I say October 6th? No, I didn't. Said 6 week. Week 6 is November 2nd. Week 7, November 9th. Then we go to week 8, which is November 16th. Week 9, November 23rd. Week 10, November 30th. Week 11 is December 7th. And week 12 is December 14th. And you will notice in PEDS that we, minus today, you will have a quiz or, your exam the following Monday. So the 2 chapters I lecture on today, you will be tested on next Monday, and so forth for the rest of the mod is how it's lined out. Okay, so whatever chapters, and I believe, let me just verify, yeah. So we'll lecture on 2 chapters, and then you'll test on them the following week. And then after that exam that day, we lecture on 2 more, and then you test on them the following week. Okay, so that's the pattern for the whole mod. Okay. So today, for example, we'll be talking about chapters 15 and 22, and then on Monday next week, those are the 2 chapters you'll be tested on. Okay. Any questions so far? So now that we're live, like I explained last week, it'll be one of 2 methods, and it really will just depend that following week or day. For you guys, it's just one day with me. So most likely all of the PEDS lectures, not definite, but most likely they'll all be just live. But they're depending on schedule, because I will be gone a couple of them. If I record them ahead of time, then myself or Melissa will be live with you during the lecture in case you have questions or anything, if that makes sense. So again, like I said last week, I'll either be presenting it like I will today as of right now and recording it, or it will already be recorded, but I will be live with you watching it. So if you have a question, we can pause it and answer those questions. So it's the same difference. It's just, 2 different options. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that you understand it. I'm trying to be very clear. We do have a group project. It doesn't sound like it's quite as extensive as the one we had in MedSearch, where, in fact, let me pull up my information here. Let me see. I just had a quick piece of information on it. That's all I know so far, but okay. So what your project is you guys will be picking, or I will pick, I'm going to probably let you guys pick it, a pediatric condition, and then your group is going to do a group project on that pediatric condition. So it's kind of like you'll be doing a presentation about that condition. Okay. So once I know more, I'll probably just, if you guys would watch for it this week, I'll probably send you an email to everybody so that I can just kind of give you some of the particulars about it so that you'll know. So I'm not sure when I'll have that meeting with Melissa. It was going to be sometime between today and Thursday, most likely. If you don't hear from me until next Monday, don't stress it. Okay. But, if you, watch your emails, of course. Okay. So that's how that one works. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything else before we get started. And everybody got your links and everything for your new book, correct? Good. Good. Awesome. All right. Let me make sure. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay.
Lori, is it optional to be on here all day, or do we have to stay on to the whole live lecture?
Okay, so I'll give you the parameters that I've been given. Okay, so you guys all sign in on at your normal sign in time at 9, correct? Or between 5 till and 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
If for some reason, so what has been explained to me, and I will try to be as flexible as possible because I get that you guys have crazy schedules. So for example, let's say that, you've got something going on, and you decide that you want to take your exam because the exam will open first thing in the morning. So let's say you decide, I'm going to go ahead and take my exam and get it done instead of coming right into the live. We are recording these, each week. So just for my brain, I've done it with every single chat we've had. But if for some reason you guys don't see that record button pop up when I'm starting lectures, please holler at me, okay? Because it'll be to your benefit as well. Because what happens is once I'm recording all of it, then at the end of the day, I get a link, and then I convert that to a YouTube link, and then I will post that on our Moodle page so that you have access to that lecture. Obviously, it's not going to be available till the whole thing is done, okay? Because you guys can pause it as you go. So, for example, if you were decided to take the test instead of being lectured, then of course, you could come back later and watch that, okay? So that's the parameters I have for it now that I'm understanding is okay. So I'm just going to, until I hear otherwise, I'm just going to treat that very loosely. Like, for example, I have somebody that's in a mandatory work orientation. I was trying to get the word out, a mandatory work orientation this morning. And they made pre-arrangements to be able to watch, to do the videos later today once it posts, so for that example. So my understanding is you'll have flexibility for some of that. They would prefer you to be live, but my understanding is there's flexibility. And I'm totally okay with that. So I hope that answers your question.
Wait, so I have a question too.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Dee.
So as long as we take the test, and so what if we take the test and then we come back later?
Fine.
Not like,
That's fine.
so you just care about us taking the test and being here when we get marked here?
Yeah, that's totally fine. But it will be your responsibility to go back and watch the lecture if you choose to do that. Now let me clarify something. And we are in the middle of deciding this as well. And again, everything just changed. So kind of like when we first started doing all of this, be a little flexible till we figure it all out. And one of the things that we were working on figuring out is whether or not we would go ahead and come in and have like a 5-minute chat, and then I'll release you guys to go ahead and take the exam. So I should be clarifying that. We are opening the exams up an hour prior to your class time. Okay, so let's say you're in the middle of taking it, but class is starting. I think they're really referring more to that. Because like when I come in at 9 o'clock next Monday and you guys have an exam, I'm going to check in. How are you guys doing? Okay, go ahead and take the exam. I'll meet you back here at such and such time for lecture to start an hour later. Does that make sense? So when they're talking about you choose, I should have clarified that. My brain's a little muddled this morning. So if you decide to take it early, and you're still finishing up, you're fine. As long as you just make sure you do check in, because you do need to check in on time. That's the little catch there. So like if you have an hour for the test, I suggest, and I don't know that these are 1-hour tests. If I'm not mistaken, they're only half that amount of time. I think you guys only have 25 questions on your PEDS test instead of 50. And I believe they're all that way except the final. So that being the case, it'll only, be probably like 30 minutes. So I know that the one
sorry, Lori.
That's okay.
I'm kind of confused. So does that mean we have to stay online, or can we log off after our test and everything?
You know what I'll do? I will clarify that with Melissa today, because I honestly don't have an answer for you. Because I know some people prefer to just watch it later and just take it all in. Some people, you know, what we found out, and the reason why we're doing it live is at the corporate level, because we are a campus school, not an online school. You know, they want us to have the live lectures. But as far as the requirements of one or the other, I need to find that out, Ursula. So I will find that out and send you guys a message, okay?
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't sure if it was just optional or not, just because I know it's
Yeah,
kind of
no,
hard with the
it's kind of,
kids.
yeah, it's a little gray. So I will find that out for sure.
Okay, and I do like having the option of doing the test earlier, just because then my kids are still sleeping and I can get it out of the way.
I don't blame you. I would be the same way because like it's still quiet in the house. Just get the exam done, right? Let's see. I'm just writing a note so I don't forget on that one. Yeah, I will get back on that one as soon as possible. I have a question for you guys. I don't know that I will know more once I talk to Melissa about the projects that you guys have. If it doesn't matter on the number of students, like if it's not like a 2 or 3 person thing, if it doesn't matter, do you guys want to still pick your groups? Do you want to do the same groups that you did your projects for last mod, or what would you guys give me some feedback?
I would like to go individually. It's much better that way.
Well, it is a group project. So I appreciate that, Simran. So it is a group project. So I guess what I'm asking is, do you want to go ahead and pick new groups, or do you want to stay with the groups that you had last mod?
I think pick our groups. I would prefer.
Okay. Anybody else? Picking? Okay.
I have a question. Can we do at least like 4 or 5? Is that cool?
Is this Janet? I'm
Yes.
sorry, when you talk, it's super quiet.
My laptop, something's wrong with it. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you much better now. Thank you.
Okay, so I was wondering, can we do like 4 or 5 in a group? Would that be fine? Because there's like 50 something people here.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I was thinking like maybe 10 groups of 5, but I just wanted to, so it's sounding like, if I'm not mistaken, you guys can give me the thumbs up, that you'd prefer to go ahead and pick new groups. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
I'm just watching everybody. Can I give thumbs up if that you like that idea? Okay. All right. How many of you say you'd rather pick the groups? Okay. All right. So I'll find out from Melissa what size groups we're talking. What, Janet?
I just got confused because the second time you said you guys want to pick the group, I thought the first time was pick the group. Whichever, so I can pick my own group.
Okay, it sounds like you guys are cool with picking a new group for this one. So what we'll do is I'll just find out how big those groups are going to be, and then I'll message you, okay? And then you guys can work on putting your groups together, okay? All right. Group size. Perfect. All right. I think that's the majority of what we need. Any other questions you can think of that you need an answer to that I might not have, so that I can find that out for you? So far I've got, do you have to be in the live lectures, or can you watch the videos instead? And obviously our project information and group size. Anything else?
Do we have to keep our cameras on if we're on the live lecture?
I believe it, if I'm presenting, I don't think we can see it anyway, can we? I don't think I can, so I will find that out. Yeah, most likely I can't see it anyway, but if during the lecture I may ask questions, and I might throw out some names, so you know, you want to make sure that you're there and listening and available. Okay. All right. Well, let's try this today. Now, again, this is a class I inherited. This is not one that I've written, so bear with me because there's a lot of information, but I really want to hit off of what you need to know. I'm really big on, as you guys know, of making sure that everything on the exam is in the lecture, and I have was up very, very late into the middle of the night, making sure that that was the case, even though it's not my information. And we will work from there. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead. I left these up last night. Yes, we are good to go there. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the present mode and see if I can pull this up, and then I'll ask you questions. I do have a question for you. I want to let you know this, since we're going live. And hang on one second. I'm going to mute this just for a second. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so two things. One is this is where we're going to be really practicing you being an advocate for yourself, okay? You guys stopping me, asking questions does not bother me at all, okay? The only thing I ask is that you stay on point with what the lecture is actually about, okay? Is that fair? I think that's fair, okay? Because we do have some long lectures. So I just ask that you stay on point. If you're asking a question, you know, is it about what we're talking about? Okay, just so that we make sure we're moving forward. Okay, so please don't hesitate. You're going to have to unmute your microphone and say, I have a question. I will pause it and then we can answer the question. Not a problem. Okay, second of all, we have a chat box, but when I'm in the present mode, I cannot see it. So is there somebody today that would be willing to help me in case a question goes up? I would prefer if you just ask it out loud. But for those of you who are timid, is there somebody that would be willing to say, hey, Lori, there's a question? Nobody's willing to do that.
I can do it for you, Lori.
Okay, thank you. And if somebody else sees it, feel free to say, hey, Lori, there's a question. But it would really help me out if you guys would just unmute your mic and say, hey, can I interrupt for a second? Or, hey, what about such and such? Please don't hesitate, okay? So I just want to lay that out because that's what the format's for, and we want to be able to help you walk through it, okay? And again, you know, a lot of these disorders I may or may not have seen, so we will work through them together, okay? So let me go ahead and go into the present mode now. It is loading.
Lori, I'm gonna switch over to my phone. Will you just let me back in?
Sure, as soon as that pops up, I will definitely let you back in. Right now,
Okay,
it's trying to share the screen, so it may be a second because it's taking its own sweet time.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Thank you.
Hey, Lori, I do have a question for you while you're looking for that. On the syllabus I'm reading, and it doesn't say, unless I'm overlooking it, it doesn't say we have a midterm. Is that true?
I believe that's true. I believe they're just regular exams all the way up until the very last final.
Okay.
You're like, yes.
I'm writing it down on my calendar. That's why.
Yeah, no problem. Let me know if you see my screen pop up. It shows it's still loading. My goodness, it's taking forever. Hmm. Well, we'll just be patient. Hopefully it'll be soon. Thanks for your patience. Let's try again. Sorry, it kicked me out. Okay, so it's telling me that you guys can see it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when I switch here, we're seeing it?
You're presenting us.
Can you see the screen now?
I see us like.
No.
The PowerPoint slide?
It's just presenting
No.
all of us.
No, not yet.
Okay, hopefully it'll be there in a second. Let me know when you can see the PowerPoint slide pop up. Hey, what are you guys seeing? Sorry.
It's just a screen with your name still.
Ah, come on. Some days. I don't know if it's the overload or what's going on. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
But you can't see the slides.
No, we can just see your picture.
Lori, when you did this, the presentation, did you pick the screen that you were going to present?
Anything?
Lori, at the top of your screen. Oh, there you go.
Now we can see it.
Now you can see the slide? Perfect.
Yeah.
Finally, and the picture, of course, dropped down, but I can't fix that. That's okay. All right, so as long as you can see, we are good to go. Okay, so we are on chapter 15. We're talking about an overview of growth, development, and nutrition. Obviously, we are talking about peds, okay? So pediatrics, just in chapter 1 of your book, it talks about the definition of pediatrics, which is just defined as the branch of medicine that deals with the child's development and care, as well as the diseases of childhood and their treatment, okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about, okay? So when we talk about growth and development, moving to the next slide, obviously there are obvious differences between adult and child. These next two slides kind of got pulled forward a little bit. So that's okay. If you're looking for it, it's a little further in the chapter, but we'll pull back again. So your differences between an adult and child is that a child is in a continuous process of growth and development, right? Whereas adults have reached the end of growth, you know, when the epiphyseal plates close, and, you know, of course, mentally and all of those things continue, but growth of the body itself, you know, is done. Growth spurts are usually followed by, yes.
I'm like, do you do key points when you're lecturing, or do you just want us to?
I'll let you know if I have some, okay? Yeah, I'll let you know if I have some key points, definitely. Growth spurts are followed by plateaus, which if you have kids or if you remember childhood, you know, where you're growing and then all of a sudden everything kind of levels out for a while. And then all of a sudden you go through another growth spurt and you start either getting taller, a little thicker, a little chunkier, and then all of a sudden, you know, it plateaus for a bit and then all of a sudden they shoot up again a few inches, right? So it's those growth spurts followed by plateaus. The growth is measurable for kids. It can be observed and studied. So that's why, you know, when they go into doctor's appointments, we check their height, we check their weight, because we know those things are going to change, right, during childhood. Did any of you guys, when you were growing up or with your own kids, do you have like put the marks on the wall, you know, to show how tall they're getting?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always fun to watch that, you know, where, you know, little kids, and for a lot of kids, it's like a really big thing, like, oh my gosh, the mark's higher than it was before, you know, or it's really fun to watch when kids start hitting adolescence, you know, and they really have those big growth spurts, you know, and they go from a little bit to just like, oh my gosh, over the summer, they grew 3 inches, you know, and you're like, no wonder their legs and arms were aching when they slept at night because they were going through such a quick growth spurt, right? But not all parts of the body mature at the same time, which is understandable. The impact of growth and development on nursing care. So your developmental needs for kids, they have an impact on the child's response to their illness, okay? Meaning that, you know, developmentally and how their body is, you know, changing and developing, you know, those have a huge impact when your kids are sick. You know, how do they respond to illness? A 1-year-old is not going to respond, you know, to an illness and what they're going through developmentally as you would have with a teenager, right? You know, their ability to understand what's going on is much different, right? You know, and you're able to, you know, with a little tiny child that's an infant or a toddler, you're not going to be able to explain to them that this is going to be real quick and then it's all done. They just think, you know, you're hurting me, and they're screaming, right? Because they can't understand. The nurse must know what is normal in order to recognize any deviations within a given age group and plan their care accordingly. Now that is key. That's something you want to understand for this section, because again, if you're presented with a whole bunch of things like the vital signs, right? And you're looking at different age groups, you're looking at heart rate, blood pressure, respirations, and any other physical things that are going on with that child. You know, what's normal, what's not normal, right? You know, you may have a child whose heart rate's 100 and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's really fast. Well, they're a child. They have different rates as opposed to being an adult, right? So you'd want to know that, you know. But like, for example, if I had a child with a widening pulse pressure that was going on, that would not be normal, right? Did they fall? Did they get a head injury? Are they having increased intracranial pressure? That would be concerning, right? So know what's normal and what's not normal as you're watching and walking through these chapters, okay? And again, so let's talk about some of the different things. Some developmental differences. You've got height, weight, body proportions, you've got metabolic rate, respirations, their cardiovascular system, nervous system, their sleep patterns, the bone growth that's going on, their immune system, kidney function. Those are definitely some developmental differences that you'll see between children and adults. They're just not the same, okay? Box 15-1 on page, let's see, Yes, the emerging patterns of behavior from ages 1 to 5 years. It's really fascinating to look at this box because it takes you through what's going on with each of these groups based off of age, your young years, right? Your 12 months to 5 years old. It's really interesting to see, like, oh, compare a 12-month-old to a 3-year-old. You're going to see a lot of differences between their motor skills and their language skills and their social skills, right? You would expect that, because they're not in that same phase. Okay. When do you think is one of the most common times to notice a child's growth during their entire childhood? When's one of the time we really notice their growth spurts?
When they're infants to babies, like toddlers.
That's one of them, but what's one of the big ones we really talk about, the major changes that go on?
Puberty age.
Yeah, exactly. During puberty and adolescence, right? That's when we're watching them go from being like this little kid to now going through those teen years and coming out on the other end, as an adult, right? So it's really crazy to watch that. That's when we really notice it, is during puberty. Again, growth such as height and weight, those are measurable. We do it by comparing, things to other parameters, like what was it before? How do they compare to other kids, that are in the same age group and category? So we're able to watch that. The process of development is the mastery of a skill that allows the infant or child then to progress to the next skill, right? So we always talk about, how is this child developing? Are they developing on time? Are they doing things that they should be for their age, or are they delayed, or are they way ahead of where other kids are at this age? So that allows us to see the process of development that they're in. Okay. So the nursing process applied to growth and development. Okay. So data collection, analysis, and nursing diagnosis. So your data collection, again, height and weight, you plot those on a standard growth chart. That again allows us to see where they fit in what we would call the norm, right, compared to other kids their age. And you'll hear it a lot of times in the terms of percentiles, right? Like with babies, they measure their head, they measure their weight and length, and then they plot those on the chart and say, wow, like they're in the 95th percentile, they're really growing, they're ahead of the game, or further back, like they're real petite, so they fall, real low on that side. And then obviously also with observation, you can observe kids, see where they're at, see how they're responding to things. Okay. Analysis and nursing diagnosis. You're determining the appropriate nursing diagnosis related to parenting, coping skills, and the unmet developmental needs for the kids. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I love one of the statements that the book talked about, and that's that children aren't miniature adults. And so because of that, their plan of care is very different than the plan of care for an adult. And we really have to take that into consideration. Again, where are they at developmentally? How's the parent doing with all of it? I mean, you're bringing a whole bunch of things to the table. I know when I used to take care of peds, one of the things that you realize every time you go into the room, you're not just taking care of the child, you're taking care of the family, right? You're taking care of their caregivers as well, because they're the ones you're educating on, how to, to deal with what they're going through at the time. Okay. So when we apply it, again, planning, you want to offer guidance and teaching to the family, school personnel, and the child in order to meet the developmental needs. Implementation, these are interventions that foster growth and development in your hospital setting that can include encouraging age-appropriate self-care. For example, you may have a little baby that you're going to completely care differently for them than you would a 12-year-old who can participate in their care, and you can give them appropriate self-care, right? So for the baby, the little toddler to 1 year, 1 to 2 years old, you're helping them maybe brush their teeth and comb their hair and give them a bath. But, you can help a 12-year-old know how to do some of those things for themselves, right? So it's going to be appropriate, age-appropriate self-care. Anticipatory guidance may be given to parents so they understand the changes in behavior, eating habits, and play for their growing child. for example. So again, you know, you'll have a lot of parents that maybe they're not familiar with certain things, and they'll be like, well, is this normal? And you're like, yeah, this is very normal for their age. It's okay, right? It's just providing that reassurance, okay, for the parents as well, because that's a big deal. I know that especially, you have to remember, especially when you're in a care setting, whether it's an acute care because their child's sick coming into like an urgent care or a doctor's office, or whether they're in the hospital, one of the things you want to remember is that, you know, that's a scary thing for a parent, you know, and this is their baby. And I've seen nurses who don't do well with peds, and it's because they don't understand the fact that these parents are concerned about their baby, just like you would be if it was your baby. And so you have to tread lightly, right? You know, you can't just be direct and this is just how it's going to be. I've watched nurses do that with a child and expect the parent to like it, right? You're having to be appropriate, you know, work with the parent, work with the child. Okay. My slide's not moving. There we go. The next one is evaluation. We have ongoing evaluation of growth and development of the child and follow-up of teaching and guidance offered at prior clinic or home visits. So, for example, you know, if you're explaining and teaching on something, then you want to come back and follow that up. How did it work? Are you doing these things? For example, let's say I have a child come in, like we used to in the public health clinic I worked in. We would have children come in for well exams. And the age around 4 years old when we did one of their big physicals, and then of course grade school as well. And we would check their hematocrit or hemoglobin level. And sometimes we'd have a child that would pop up anemic, right? And so we would have to teach the parent on appropriate foods that were high in iron that would help, you know, bring that patient back to where they need to be so they're no longer anemic. So if I bring that child in 2 weeks later or 4 weeks later, and I'm checking their hemoglobin hematocrit again, and they're low, they're still low, what do you think might be an issue if at the previous visit, you know, I was educating them on food changes and things like that? So if they come back in and they're still low, what are some things you might think of? Do you feel like they got it when I taught them at the last teaching?
No. So reteaching.
Right.
Look at a different way to teach them.
So let me ask you this: before you teach them again, what would you want to know? What kind of questions would you ask them?
You would ask them like how to do what you told them to do before, or like how they've been doing it to see if they like what they make mistake or.
Right. So you could say, okay, so last time, you know, we went over some eating changes and we talked about these particular food groups that you could be adding. How has that been working? And they may say, oh, well, they won't really eat those things. Or they might say, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that, right? Or, well, we do it about once a week, right? Or it's not a regular part of their diet. You follow? So yeah, you're finding out. Did they do what we taught them to do? Did they understand the importance of what we taught them, right? Now, when I'm looking at that hemoglobin or hematocrit level, and I took it at the last visit and I'm taking it again today, and it's showing that they're anemic today, what would I be looking at between the two tests that I did? What would I be monitoring?
Would it be different?
Is it different? And is it different in what way?
It says
Higher or lower?
anemia for lower levels or hemorrhage and kidney disease, and high level causes COPD and severe dehydration.
Okay, so let's say my child was really anemic at the first visit, but let's say now their level has come up, but they're still anemic, but they're getting closer to the normal range. What would that tell me?
If it's getting closer to the normal range, isn't that a positive sign?
Exactly, it's improving, right? So, for example, like if I had a child that came in with a crit, you know, of 10, 11, right? And now I'm sorry, I don't have my normal numbers in front of me, and I used to take these all the time. I'm not thinking, but let's just say it was 11 and normal was 13. Okay. So maybe the first visit they were at a 10, and now they come back and they're at 11.8. Is that you just said it, but is that a good sign? Yes. Why is it a good sign? You just said it, Francis. Because they're improving.
Yeah,
right?
rather go up than getting lower.
Right. It didn't stay the same and it didn't go lower. It's actually moving upward. So again, we could ask the patient, oh, well, or to the parent, wow, their number's coming up. They're still anemic, but it has come up like 1.8. That's really good. So what have you been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks? And they might tell you, well, I got them a children's vitamin that had iron in it. We've been having veggies every night with leafy green veggies, and we've been, I've been incorporating some high iron meats and and so on. And you're like, great, it's working. Keep doing what you're doing because it's getting better. And then at your next visit, we're going to evaluate it again. Make sense? So you're looking for those trends. So it's not just, oh, well, you were anemic before, you're anemic now, what are you doing wrong? It's looking at those actual numbers and saying, is it improving? We're looking for trends upward. Make sense? So it would be like if somebody has blood pressure issues, right? And they're really high, and we put them on a blood pressure medication, we're going to look to see, is it getting better? Is the blood pressure coming down, right? So is it trending downward where we want it to go? And with anemia, we would be looking, is it trending upward? Is it getting better? So anytime we're doing an evaluation, we want to know, are our interventions working? Make sense? That becomes, really important for that. Okay. Now, I'm not sure how this works when we're going to be taking our breaks, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a 10-minute break. I'm going to stop sharing, hopefully now that I've done it. Let's see where it goes here. Yay. Okay, you're just seeing me now, right? Good. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 10:03, okay?